Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullahi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. I apologize for the delay because of a technical problem, and besides that I was 5 minutes late also. But today inshallah we will continue our Sira session, which we will be talking about the third phase as mentioned by the book Sealed Nectar, Ar-Raheeq Al-Makhtum. Even though the scholars of the Sira and the Fuqaha, they differ in dividing the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that how they divided the life. It doesn't really matter. It's for various reasons they have divided the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam this way. So when it comes to the author of the book, which is Safiur Rahman al-Mubarak Puri, he divided in a manner that the third phase he's referring to is the phase when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam started his da'wah to the tribe other than the Meccans only, other than the Quraysh, and he started his da'wah of Islam towards them. And also the other Arabs who were individuals who either came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam or Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam approached them, the da'wah of Islam was taken to them. So this is the third phase he referred to. And now this third phase is an important phase. And hence I will not just directly go to the part we left off, which was we talked about the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam until the Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj incident in the last semester. Now, instead of going directly into that, it's good to have some understanding of the third phase, what he's referring to third phase, one. Second, in this third phase, he's starting off, or we could have started after Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj and go to where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam took the bay'ah, or the first bay'ah, Bay'atul Ula, from the people of Medina, or at that time they were referred as the people from Yathrib. And then the second bay'ah was mentioned in the book. But to understand why those pledges were taken or given by them or taken by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it's good to have some prior understanding and clarity. Even though we talked about last semester, I see quite a few new faces here as well. So we should have some understanding why those pledges were given to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, when we look at it, and kind of for today, I probably just end up doing the summary of the third phase prior to the pledges of the Aqaba, which I refer to the Aqaba because this is the valley that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he took the bay'ah from the people of Yathrib or people of Medina. Now, when you talk about third phase is not in general referred to the time when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was going through a year of grief. Year of grief means Amul Huzn. This is the time Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam lost two of his main supports in the time in the era of the Mecca when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was in Mecca. First one was Abu Talib, the uncle of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who did not become a Muslim until he died. He was not a Muslim, but he was still, because of many other reasons, because of the family ties, because of the way the people of Arab were, meaning the tribalism was at the peak at that time. People would do anything for their tribe, whether they are right or wrong. Right? There's a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam which has a similar meaning as there was a saying in the days of Jahiliyyah or ignorance, as we mentioned before, that they used to say, "Unsur akhaka zaliman al-madluma," meaning, "Unsur, support your brother, whether he is an oppressor or oppressed." So the Arabs, they used to follow this literally prior to Islam. For them, it was literal meaning, no matter who your brother is, whether he's an oppressor or oppressed, you have to support him. So you see that Abu Talib, the uncle of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he supported Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam because of his family ties. He was the guardian of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he was very young, when he lost his father, mother, and grandfather. And Abu Talib continued to support him until he passed away. And he was Rasulullah ﷺ at that time was about 50 years old. So he was already 10 years into the da'wah, and Abu Talib did not accept Islam. And he died in the state of kufr, unfortunately. Now, there was one main support. He was defending him from all the other tribes in the Mecca. And because of him being the leader of the tribe, he was the main support for Rasulullah ﷺ for aggression from many people. Second main support for Rasulullah ﷺ was his wife, Khadija radiallahu anha. And she was from the day one of the prophethood of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She was on the side of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not only emotionally but also financially. She was one of the richest women of the Mecca, and she supported Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the da'wah throughout the time when she was alive. And she also passed away about 2 months, as reports talk about, after Abu Talib passed away. So it was back-to-back shocks for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, losses for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that's why the year is called Aam al-Huzn, the year of grief for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He lost main supports that he had in the da'wah, in the era of the Mecca. Now, when Abu Talib passed away, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said he will continue to make dua for Abu Talib unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stops him. And then Allah Azza wa Jal revealed in Surah Tawbah later on that says, مَا كَانَ النَّبِيُّ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَن يَسْتَغْفِرُوا لِلْمُشْرِكِينَ وَلَوْ كَانُوا أُولِي الْقُرْبَى مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُمْ أَنَّهُمْ أَصْحَابُ الْجَحِيمِ. Allah Azza wa Jal is mentioning that it is not for the Nabi, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the one who believe to ask for forgiveness for the people who died in the state of kufr. Look, Abu Talib was a main support for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he was even ordered now not to make dua for him. Even Rasulullah was ordered not to make the dua for his own mother when he asked for, but he was allowed to visit the grave of his mother. And that's actually, when we visit the grave, we visit for our own self. It's a reminder for us what the life is about. Why am I bringing it up, especially this incident, even though we're summarizing it? Because we are going through the time today that recently the Queen of England died. We all know of it, I guess. We all watching the news, it's all over the place, and we find even, unfortunately, some of the Muslims also making the dua for the deceased queen. See, we have to understand we are Muslim. We have to abide by what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordained to us. Yes, we can do the condolences to the people who have, somebody have passed away in their family who was not a Muslim. A condolences for the person who has a great loss, like death or death of a person or something. Or it could be living in the West. We can have our own family members sometime who are not Muslim, because there are people who become Muslim, they are revert Muslims, and they still have family members who are not Muslim. So how do you deal with them? And it's a very sad thing to be in a situation that you can have your parents or your children who are not Muslim, and they may die in that state. What do you do now, right? Of course, we make dua for them when they're alive all the time, and we call them up towards the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when somebody dies, this is a hukum regarding a person who's dead now, in the state of kufr. So it's not allowed as a Muslim. I want to bring it up because this is something important. We should be aware of it. And unfortunately, you will hear people will try to say otherwise things, but then we have to have some evidence about it, right? We should go by the evidences from the Quran and the Sunnah. And this is what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was commanded himself for the people who he was very close to even. And he was not even allowed. Even Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, when he was making the dua for his father, because he made the promise that he will make dua for Ibrahim alayhi salam, his father, who also passed away in the state of kufr, in the state of disbelief. And when Allah Azza wa Jal clarified to him that it is not allowed for him, then Ibrahim alayhi salam also stopped. So we must think, we must be clear about this. When something is given to us which is from what Allah Azza wa Jal has revealed, we should be the one be saying Sam'ana wa ata'ana, meaning we hear and we obey. That's the way we should be looking at, because Allah Azza wa Jal is the creator of the heavens and the earth. He is the one who's aware of everything. He knows what is good for us. He knows what is bad for us. He knows what I'm thinking right now in my head. besides what I am doing. And same thing about all of us. So obviously, when He is the one who's aware of everything, when He gives us the rules which are unbiased, He's not in need of us, that He's trying to please us or something, so make the rules so these people will be pleased with them. No, He is not in need of us. We are in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are basic parts, things about our aqidah, our iman, and we have to think about it. And on top of it, sometimes you think of it, you know what, if you make dua, say certain good words, of course you can say good words to the person for the condolences, for the person who has the loss. As I said very clearly, the person who's alive, you can talk to them, you can make dua for them. But now think of this way. If a person who does not believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, does he really care who makes dua to Allah for him? He does not believe in Allah. He rejected Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? It's no different than, would we care as the believers, the one who believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, would we care that somebody say, oh, I'm going to make dua to the sun god, or moon god, or snake god, or the son of a god, and on and on and on. And I'll ask them to forgive you. How does it feel to us? In reality, we would not really have, for us it has no meaning. As a matter of fact, we rather give him the truth, the message of the haqq, or the truth we should convey to him. That should be our thinking. And when we hear these kind of incidents, we should be thinking more about ourselves. We should be thinking about ourselves. That, man, the person who has died in the state of kufr, who did not accept Islam, maybe he was not even exposed to Islam. Are we doing the job? When we're learning about the seerah of Rasulullah, why are we learning? We are learning so we know how Rasulullah lived the life according to Islam. So we can emulate his life as best as possible. So now, that's part of emulation in his life, right? Okay, now keep going. So that's just one aspect I want to make sure that we are clear about that. Now, about Abu Talib, Abbas, one of the uncles, who was the uncle of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there's a report mentioned of his uncle Abu Talib before Rasulullah that he said, my intercession may benefit him on the day of resurrection, and he may be placed in the shallow part of fire, which would reach his ankles, and his brain would be boiling because of the punishment he will receive. And this hadith is mentioned by Imam Muslim in his book Sahih al-Muslim. Sahih Muslim is one of the most authentic books of the hadith. When it comes to Khadija radiallahu anha, so we understand how important it was for Rasulullah. By the way, when I mentioned the dua that Rasulullah made, that was prior to that. After that, Rasulullah was commanded not to make dua, and of course, he was not making dua afterwards. Now here, about Khadija, she was so important that the hadith mentioned that Rasulullah mentioned that Jibreel came to him, to Rasulullah, and he said, Khadija is coming to you with a vessel of seasoned food or drink. When she comes to you, offer her greetings from her Rabb, from Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the salam to Khadija radiallahu anha. She was of such a high status. That's what it shows. So when Rasulullah lost Khadija, it was a great loss for him. So that's another subject we can cover some other time, the status of women in Islam, which is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has elevated the status of women, whether she's a wife, a mother, she's a daughter or a sister, whatever relationship she has or the status she has in the society, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raised the status of the women that no other society ever did and will ever be able to do, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who created us, whether men or women. He is the one who has given us the rights, the way the rights should be given to us. Okay? So just an example of Khadija, how Allah Azza wa Jal is referring to Khadija radiallahu anha. Now, moving to the other subject. Now, when Rasulullah was when he was going through the Am al-Huzn, the year of grief, after that, when Rasulullah started approaching the other tribes, as Ibn Kathir mentions, that when Allah commanded, so remember that this hadith that Ibn Kathir is reporting, he's saying Allah commanded his messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam to present himself to the Arab tribes. He went out to Mina accompanied by this hadith is reported by Ali. So he said, accompanied by myself and Abu Bakr, where we came to a gathering of Arab tribes. This is reported by Bidayah wa Nihaya in the book of Ibn Kathir, which is a book about the history. But there are other reports also discusses the very same incident. And Imam Tirmidhi mentions in his book Al-Jami', he says during the Uqaz, Rasulullah would communicate the glad tidings of Jannah and promises of success to those who believed and carried Islam. He would openly inform them that they would surely prosper, rule the whole Arabian Peninsula, and subdue Persia if they professed to Tawheed and accepted the authority of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What I'm trying to mention here is that idea of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taking the pledge of allegiance from the Yathrib. It was not in a thin air. Suddenly Rasulullah was doing the da'wah and people of Medina came, oh, we really love you and come to Medina. No, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was involved in this carrying the message of Islam to the people of Mecca as well as the people who are other Arabs outside the Mecca as well. And that was the result of the very same da'wah that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was doing that ended up that the people of Medina or Yathrib at that time came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and gave the bay'ah. And we will go into detail about the bay'ah inshallah in next week's talk. But to mention other things, there are many reports that talk about which are the tribes that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went to. Is reported by Al-Dhuhri. And he says about the tribes to whom Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went to give the da'wah of Islam, to ask them to accept Islam and give the authority to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Look, when we look at Islam, we have to look at Islam as a whole. We cannot just talk about some parts of the seerah and skip the others. And it has to be connected with the main goal of the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a messenger. And that's what his main goal was, to make sure that the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal becomes supreme and people live according to Islam. And for that, these steps were taken by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Think of this way. When I was coming to this morning to here, to the campus, to give the talk, my goal was to make it here and give the talk, right? And you guys did whatever you did to come to 12 o'clock here so you can listen to the talk. Now, prior to the talk, when I made it here, I did many other things, right? But my goal for today was to make it here and give the talk. So I woke up, I prayed the Fajr, I took the shower and I had breakfast, took the train, and then took the bus from the train station to here, and on and on and on. Now, obviously, all those things were done by me, but the main goal for me was to come here and deliver the lecture. Now, if I don't deliver the lecture and I do all those things, it will not matter anything, right? Even though those things were important, without them, I could have not achieved that. Hence, when we look at the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, yes, he was a father. Yes, he was the husband. Yes, he was the neighbor for the Muslims and non-Muslims. And yes, he became the judge, he became the ruler, he was a prophet. All those things were there. So we have to make sure that we look into his life about all the things, but without skipping why he was sent to this dunya. And sometimes we get so much indulged into minor details and we forget about the major thing, why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was here. So this is why it is very important for us to pay attention to these aspects when we talk about that why he was going to those tribes. Since we were kids, I think most of us have, whether in Saturday school or if we went to Islamic school or studying by ourselves, all of us are aware of the incident of Ta'if, right? When Rasulullah went to Ta'if and he was hurt by the people of the Ta'if. They were throwing stones at him to the point that his shoe was filled with blood. Yeah? We all hear about that. But many a times, we don't pay attention why he went to Ta'if. People think of it, he went for da'wah of Islam. Yes, he went for the da'wah. But who was he meeting there? He went to meet three brothers. There were three brothers who were the leaders of Ta'if. He went there to them and asked them to become Muslim and help him to give the authority to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's what it means by the nusra. When we hear the term nusra, that's what it's referring to. That Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was asking for nusra. Nusra is you're asking for support. That support is for what? So that he could implement the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal. And this is the call for which the people of Ta'if became angry at Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, at least the rulers. And they sent the young men, children who were throwing stones at Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then the whole incident goes on, which we discussed last first semester. Just a small minor detail in there, when the angel of the mountain was sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he was given a choice to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to, if he wished, all the people who were living between those two mountains would have been crushed to death by the angel of the mountain. And that's Banu Thaqif, by the way, when we talk about Ta'if. What did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say? He actually made the dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, first of all, the very famous dua. I'm not going to detail of that, but he said, he would, if Allah is not angry with him, he's okay. And he did not want the people to be destroyed. And he made dua that maybe somebody from the loins of the very same people will come and spread the Islam. And you know what? One of the people who came out from Banu Thaqif carried the Islam to the region of the world today where we have the most number of Muslims living there. And that was Muhammad bin Qasim al-Thaqafi. He's the one who entered into Indian subcontinent when some Muslim women, children, they were abducted by Raja Dahir, and he's the one who came with the army of the Muslims and he freed them, and the Islam started spreading from there on in that region. So if those people would have been crushed or died, Allah knows the best what would have been in the future. But of course, this is the qada of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, so just want to make sure that we understand why are we discussing these tribes to whom Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went to carry the da'wah of Islam. Now, one of the reports mentioned by Zuhri, it says Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam introduced Islam, and he spoke to Banu Amir bin Sa'sa. Yes, 5 minutes. Okay. Banu Amir bin Sa'sa, Muharib bin Khasfa, Fazara, Ghassan, Murrah, Hanifa, Salim, and then Banu Nasr, Banu al-Buka, Kinda, Banu Kalb, which is Banu Abdullah as well. There are different names are mentioned here. And all of them, and there are more reports to talk about that, this was from 4th year until he got the Nusra from the people of Medina. Okay. Now, all of them, they rejected Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Some of them, they tried to make compromise with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Like Banu Amr bin Sa'sa, they said, we'll accept you we'll accept Islam, we'll give you the authority, one condition, when you die, then the authority belongs to our family. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's response was, it belongs to Allah Azza wa Jal, He gives to whoever He wishes. Same thing, Banu Shayban, when he went to these people, they were willing to accept Islam, but with condition. The condition was that they had some treaties with the Persians. They will not fight against the Persians to support him, defend him, but they will defend from others. And Rasulullah's response was that Nusra has to be, the support has to be from all jawanib, all sides. It cannot be conditional. And it continued on, and nobody accepted Islam among them, meaning they did not give the authority to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Similarly, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also went to some of the individuals who came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they accepted Islam. That included Suwayd bin Samit, who was and Iyas bin Mu'ad. He was a port. Iyas bin Mu'ad was from actually Aus. Aus was one of the tribes of the Medina who came and gave the bay'ah later on. He was a young man. They came to get the alliance with the Meccans to support them against Khazraj. So Aus and Khazraj, these two tribes, we'll talk about more later, they used to fight with each other for very trivial things. And now they were looking for alliance from the Meccans. And this boy came to Rasulullah. Rasulullah came to him, talked to him, and he said, I can offer you something better. And this boy accepted Islam, but the others who were with him, they did not accept Rasulullah at that time. And this boy went back to Medina, in the state of Islam, and he did not live too long and he passed away. And subhanAllah, he died in the state of Islam. And similarly, Abu Dhar Ghaffari, Tufail ibn Dosi, and Dumad al-Azdi, these people were individuals who came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They were prevented, some of them, like Tufail ibn Amr ibn Dosi, he was prevented by the Makkans. Don't listen to this guy. He breaks the families apart. People don't talk to each other, the family members, because of what message he's bringing. And Tufail, he put the cotton in his ears, making sure he would not listen to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then once he saw Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was praying in the haram, he got intrigued. He wanted to see what he was doing. He wanted to hear what Rasulullah was saying now. He went closer and closer, up to the point that he was able to hear what Rasulullah was reciting. And now he learned more from Rasulullah. And when he heard Quran, it impacted him so much that right away he became Muslim. And just the last one, Dumad al-Azdi, and I'll stop. This person, he came to Mecca, and he was talking to some ignorant people of the Mecca who used to make fun of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he was famous for incantation kind of things. So he said, okay, I'm gonna go and make fun of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when he went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam offered him Islam. So he was there to make fun of him. And subhanAllah, when he got to the point when Rasulullah started talking to him, and he presented some of the ayat of the Quran. And he mentioned that whosoever is guided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot be misguided. And whoever is misguided cannot be guided. And he asked Rasulullah, can you repeat that again? And again, and again. 3 times he heard. And then he said he has never heard any kalam, any word like that. And the one who was going to make fun of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam at that point, he became a Muslim. So you find the people who are not from the Mecca also, from outside of Mecca, different tribes, they started accepting Islam as well at this point, but they were very few in number. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was approaching the bigger tribes who can give him power and authority. This is what we see in the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when we read about Rasulullah is approaching the different tribes, pay attention closely. What does it mean by tribe now? When it says tribe, it meant Rasulullah was approaching the leaders of tribes in general, the one who had authority or power among them. So inshallah, we'll stop here today's talk, and we will talk about how while all these people who had very bad, either gave very bad response or just rejected Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam rejected them when they were trying to make compromise from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, so he did not accept any compromise with Islam, and that was very difficult times he was going through. Even then, he did not make any compromise. And then the people from Medina came, and we'll talk about that next week, inshallah. What happened? Why they accepted Islam? Why they supported Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Okay, so we'll stop here, inshallah. And if there is any questions or comments, I would like to address them. So just to give you the idea of, from the book perspective, we have covered up to, I don't know which book you guys have. In the PDF, I have page number 146, it says. Actually 147, which is Al-Isra al-Mi'raj. It ends, and after that, the next section that starts is on 154. So we'll talk from there, which is the first pledge of the Aqaba. And if you are following the Arabic book, it is page number 123.